time to move further towards the next proceedings of the function, and for that, I would like to call upon stage Dr. Ganga Mahtu, Sir, Assistant Professor, Regional Institute of Education, NCERT, Bhopal, India. For him, I would like to say that uh, uh, Dr. Ganga Mahtu is an assistant professor in English at NCRT, Bhopal. He's a teacher, trainer, content developer, and researcher in English language and literature. He has a rich experience of teaching students at senior secondary level in Kendriya Vidya Sangathan and graduates in YN College, Digwada, Sarn. Dr. Mahato has got his educational qualification from the English and the Foreign Language University, Hyderabad. He has done B.Ed in English, then MA in English, and then uh, he has done his PhD in English literature on regionalism in the major works of R.K. Narayan. He has the qualification from both the national eligibility test. He is both NET qualified and SLET qualified. He has delivered lectures in more than 20 conferences and seminars in and outside the country. He is a technology friendly person and exploited for the benefit of the learners. And he is working on the impact of social media on English language. So may we have Dr. Ganga Mahtu sir on the screen, please, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ravindra. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I
You are
call you a
audible.
student because I have heard that you are one of the students showered upon the responsibility, getting trained in the process of presenting and coordinating with things. Okay, dear friends and dear viewers, dear listeners, I would like to thank Government College of Education Jammu and Cape Comorin Trust of Kerala for inviting me as one of the resource persons over there. I said that why there is one person, Ramanujam sir, an expert, he's already talking why there is need of another speaker. He said, okay, you sir, please be specific on language area. And then I said, okay, you see that throughout the whole national education policy, there are 22 places where they have referred the term in national education policy as NCERT. So NCERT at 22 places given lots of responsibilities in uh, to implement the policy at various levels, mostly in school education. So the role of NCERT becomes very crucial, not only at the implementation level, from the beginning when the policy was drafted, edited, suggestions incorporated, NCERT has been seriously involved into the job, and you can see that how NCERT has been given responsibility. I'm considerably new to the kind of to new to NCERT, but still few things have contributed in the policy where in the final stages when I joined NCERT. Many speakers since beginning they have been listening a lot, and I could see the number decreasing from 65. I have been listening all the people since beginning. I was there one of the early birds in this conference conclave. So decreased from 65 to 49, but yet the last one should be something icing up the cake, or maybe filling up the things that has been left around. So many things have been already been said about language in NEP, but they were in a sprinkled manner. Instead of talking everything extensively, I thought that let me be intensively talk about language part, because language has been a very serious concern, and Professor Ramanujam, Professor Nanda, and many other people have said it has become a very crucial part of learning. So I'll be focusing on language part, which is discussed in point number 11 national education policy, to point number 22. Sorry, 4.11 to 4.22. So these are the points that I'll be taking up, and I think point number 11 to point number 22, I'll be sharing my screen. I hope Ravindra will let me know that the screen is shared and is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, visible. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Is this visible now? Is my slide
Yes, sir.
visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, done. I'll stop sharing here. So, the crucial age of language learning. I think we all know psychology. We have been in the field of education. The crucial age of learning, language learning, particularly, is 2 years to 8 years. So, this 2 years to 8 years is now covered in fundamental stage. So, here in this initial age of learning, where language takes place a lot, and development of language takes place in the child's brain a lot of importance is given for language learning. And since beginning, three language formula has been adopted. So child is given more than one language to learn in the beginning. Maybe a mother tongue, maybe the second language and the third language. So three languages has been made compulsory since beginning, beginning stages. So in the earliest stages, if you see of child's development, there is just two or three other textbooks or books for learning. You have one, as mathematics, which will develop logical and logical abilities, and then there is one EVS. So apart from these three, you have all the books are three books, two or three books in language. That also talks about how language learning becomes very, very crucial in the early stage of uh, you know childhood. Now, as I said, multilingualism has been stressed on since early childhood. So the child will learn more than one language, and not only multilingualism. This multilingualism in the child, it will also cater the need of a country like India, where we have linguistic diversity, more than 50, 100 languages working inside the country, more than 150, mother tongues as per census, to be taught in the schools. So where you have linguistic diversity, the role of multilingual, education becomes very, very necessary. And that's why they have stressed on multilingualism, because it will also cater linguistic chauvinism. Linguistic chauvinism is having pride in one's own language, maybe sometimes having too much pride, but why shouldn't we have linguistic chauvinism? The Chinese have it, the Japanese have it. They never do take any other language. They're proud of their language, excessive proud. They do not allow other languages to work in their territory. So why can't we have linguistic chauvinism and feel pride? This is really felt at many schools. We have really felt that people have less linguistic chauvinism, and that leads to learning their other languages. For example, let me take the example of Odia. In Odisha, you go to the schools and the teachers teach, say that I would like to teach you in Odia language. The parents are the first one who would come and object. Why? My child already speaks Odia. Let him learn Hindi. Let him learn English. Let him learn any other language except Odia, because the child already knows Odia. Child's home language is Odia. So this like slightly demeaning the own language, or having go, I have given a better example of Odia. Let us go to any tribal area where the child is speaking a tribal language, and the teacher is advised to teach in that tribal language. The parents will come first and object, no, 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 my child should not be taught in tribal language. My child should be taught in either Hindi or any other national language. So this, having less linguistic chauvinism, or having less, faith in one's own language, is something that is a problem for our country. And here, linguistic chauvinism and these policies focus on multilingualism and promoting every language as equal language should come into focus and help. We need to really learn more than one language. So learning one language will not be sufficient. Maybe learning your mother tongue and then second language, third language will take you out of your area and establish you at the global front. So for that, we need to learn more languages. And that's why since the beginning, there is a focus of learning more than one language in this policy. When we talk of multilingualism, we can think of many languages that you can see on the screen as well. We have a local language, we have mother tongue, we have home language. So starting from home language first, mother tongue, local language, regional language, linked language, and foreign language. There are sometimes language 2, language 3, the second language, third language as well added to this list. So there are slight differences to it. They are not exactly the same. There are slight differences. So while a mother's, child, the language of the child is directly linked with the mother's language, but then it cannot be exactly the home language. So home language can be different. They are almost similar terms. Home language, mother tongue, local language, we can call it. So some people saying that the language of the child's mother is the only mother tongue, that we should do away with. The language of the home can be different. For example, let me give an example. My wife is from Nepal and she speaks Nepali. And I am from Bihar, Mithila. My parents speak Maithili at home. I speak Maithili at home with my parents. I speak Hindi with my wife because I cannot speak Maithili. I speak English. What will be the mother tongue for my child? There has been a lot of debates, like will Nepali be her mother tongue? Will Maithili be her mother tongue? Nepali, which her mother speaks, Maithili, which my family and I speak, uh, English that I speak, Hindi that we speak common, all of us speak and understand. So in such a case, there will be home language. We cannot completely say that and say that the mother tongue is the child's mother tongue can be Hindi only. Let's take home language into the case, and that can be the local language, that can be the mother tongue for the child. Then we have local language where the child goes to the school and there he comes in the company of a few friends and they speak a particular language, maybe mostly in the areas of Bihar, they speak Maithili or Hindi. So we have these three conflicting terms. Let us not confuse them. Let us just be very, very clear that whatever language the child has grown up speaking very comfortably with, that is the child's mother tongue, or that is child's home language or local language. Then you have regional language, which is very much popular in that area. For example, Maithili has a region that can be a regional language. Then there is linked language, which links more than one language. Maybe Hindi can link person from Nepal and a person from Bihar. So maybe a linked language which can link two group of people, or English which link various languages of the country. You go to South India, English will serve as a purpose for North India. You come to North India, English will serve as a purpose, or Hindi may be sometimes. Then we have foreign language, which is mostly beyond a country, our country, the language that is spoken in other countries. So there are a lot of terms related to that, and the child will be exposed to various of these languages in the early stages. The policy says that mother tongue should be utmost priority in the beginning stages, in the initial stages of learning, because learning becomes very, very easy to understand. The child will be able to understand the content in the early stages if the child is taught into mother tongue. So the medium of instruction should be mother tongue. Confusions, maybe they are like, if I do not know the mother tongue of that area, there were teachers who came for training to our institute, and they say that, sir, I have been posted into an area, tribal area, where I do not know the language of the child. So what should I do? How should I teach in that mother tongue? I said simple answer: learn that. You cannot say that I have been posted there. Either you take a transfer from that place, or you learn that language and teach them in the mother tongue. You cannot have excuse, I do not know this language, so I'll teach in Hindi or some other tongue. So medium of instruction in the early stages should be the mother tongue. Mother tongue can be taught if it is a established language. In many cases it happens to be in the schools of many parts of the country. Mother tongue can be taught as a subject after grade 5. It cannot be taught early, but after grade 5, because in early stage you have specific language books or languages specified, but it can be taught as a subject after grade 5, as a subject, not as a language. So in the early stages, up to grade 5, it should be taught as a language. Teaching in mother tongue will certainly develop and increase, or have an increase in the patriotic feeling. The child will feel more proud for the country. So there should be, there is a need to increase patriotic feeling, or I said that linguistic chauvinism in the child, so that they feel proud to have been speaking in that language. This NEP also says that textbook in mother tongue to be prepared. Wherever textbooks it is possible, mother tongue has a script, or maybe even using the script of other language. If it is possible, with the in collaboration with SCRTs, textbook are to be developed in mother tongue, and for that an Indian translation and interpretation mission has will look after this, or maybe you can have SCRT local body also look after this, as standard textbook mostly prepared by NCRT at central level can be translated into local languages, into mother tongue by the SCRTs or local bodies. Then for the use of language and promotion of language, there are 4 steps to be followed: use the language, teach it, promote it, and implement it. So mother tongue should be the medium of instruction till grade 5 and preferably till grade 8. They say that till grade 5 it should be the medium of instruction, and preferably, if possible, we can even stretch it up to grade 8, language or mother tongue as the medium of instruction. So we should use it extensively. Then we should also teach it. Mother tongue should be taught as a language wherever possible. If the language has a script, or the language is very established one, using other languages script, the language can also be taught wherever possible. Then I already said books are to be made available in local languages, so you need to translate the books, standard books. More and more creating creativity is also required. So those who are like writing in that particular language, they should also be motivated to write more and more in that language. As far as implementation part is concerned, the policy suggests that it is to be followed by public and private schools. So though it is not compulsorily kind of imposed on, but suggestion is given that since it is required in the initial stage to have good exposure in languages, mostly in mother tongue, so mother tongue policy or implementation of mother tongue, kind of mother tongue instruction up to grade 5 should be followed by both public and private schools. Let's move further. In mother tongue, we have better understanding of concept. So the concept will be very, very clear if the child is talking to mother tongue. The gap, which many of the previous speaker has suggested, the gap between language of the child and the teacher will be bridged. The child will not feel alienated in a class, pondering after language, pondering after the thing that what the teacher has said. So the gap between the teacher and the child's language will be filled, and the child will be able to understand things easily. Wherever possible, bilingual approach and teaching learning material can be followed. So if the child is not able to understand, the teacher will use bilingual approach and will try to explain the things, concept easily to the child. TLM, if possible, the teacher will also convert the worksheets, the other materials into the child's language, the language that the child easily understands, and that will make the child easily understand and do the works. So the teaching learning material will also be converted into mother tongue wherever possible in the early stages. High quality language teaching should be focused on. So it is mother tongue, so I can skip up by basic teaching and all. No, even with mother tongue, high quality language teaching is enforced. So early stages there will be high quality language teaching. They also said that same language not required as the medium of instruction to be taught as language. So it's not necessary that you teach Hindi in Hindi, or you teach Sanskrit in Sanskrit, or you teach English in English. You can use mother tongue, you can use Odia to teach English in the initial stages. I'm talking of up to class 5, grade 5. You can use maybe the child's Kannada to teach Hindi. So it is not required the same language should be the medium of instruction to be taught as a language. You can use other language which the child is very, very friendly with as medium of instruction to teach different language, or to teach a particular language. Then there is a concept which the Prime Minister was also stressing once he was, one day he was talking on language policy, national education policy. He was talking about learning language versus language for learning, or I simplified it, learning to read versus reading to learn. In the initial stage, the focus should be learning to read. That means learning to get the content. So in the initial stage, the teacher should use a language which is so easy for the child to understand that the child's attention should be on understanding the concepts easily, whether it is teaching of language or any other thing, or any textbook of science or EVS or maybe social science or anything. So we should be focusing on learning to read instead of reading to learn, like directly reading to learn or language for learning. The most focus should not be for the child. Say for example, if the child goes in a tribal area, the child goes to a school and he's directly exposed into a different language, say for example Hindi or English, and the child is not very comfortable in that language because he has not been exposed to that in his home or in his society or in his area. His complete attention goes in just learning the language. His focus is not on learning any concept but only in learning. So in the initial stage, the medium of instruction as mother tongue will ensure that the child's focus goes on learning the concept, learning the content, and the child is learning to read and not reading to learn. When it comes to language teaching, the policy say that language teaching should be enjoyable. It should be made as activity oriented, as activity based, as fun based as possible. The age of 2 to 8 years, I have already said, is very crucial age. So this should be focused in, more and more focus should go on developing language in that time. They say that there should be interactive conversation. The child should be allowed to make more and more conversation, interactive conversation, maybe interacting with the peers, interacting with the teachers, interacting with the parents in that language. So there should be more and more focus on use of language. The child should be child should be trained to use the language rather than being a passive listener. The child should be actively involved in the process of learning, maybe conversation, dialogues, maybe talking, something like that. Apart from this, they also say that early reading should be more, kind of motivated. So the child should be motivated to do more and more reading activity, because that is the most important time to develop the language. So more and more reading should be developed. And you also know that this National Achievement Survey mostly knows the health of the education system through reading only. The child has to read something, maybe recognize text, a part of the text, read something and try to answer the questions that follows. So early, that's why in order to have good reading, maybe recognizing 2-3 letter words, recognizing numbers, as madam was saying that at class 4 or class 3 and 4 level, the child at many places in this National Achievement Survey, class 3, we had the first survey. They said that the child was not able to understand, recognize certain words as well. So early reading should be motivated. This motivation of early reading can bridge this gap of the child recognizing things early and reading the text, longer text as well. Then early writing has been also stressed, and it becomes one of the important parts. We generally start with writing and all. So as this LSRW is considered, we go for first, mostly we start teaching writing, then comes to reading, and then comes to speaking, and finally reading. So maybe writing should also be stressed on and should not come, maybe reading and writing both are to be stressed, or kind of in similar fashion, and not one after the other. They should be developed equally. Then oral reading fluency is also stressed on at one place. They say that the child should also, with this oral reading is mostly related to speaking. The child should be able to also look at the text and read aloud properly. So this aloud reading or oral reading has also been stressed on in the initial stages. And I think they're going to work a lot in this area of oral reading, which has been given more and more emphasis in this national education policy. Then the policy also said that other language should come after grade 3. So up to grade 3, the child should be more focused on mother tongue, but other languages can we focus slightly more after grade 3? So there is slight contradiction here when you are giving other languages like maybe Hindi or English, then maybe in the initial stage, because 5 year 8 years are the crucial age for development. So here there will be some change of keeping all the languages together, but the child can take up other language after grade 3 only. That is something mentioned in national education policy. Then three language formula has been kept the same. So language 1 in the three language formula, language 1, language 2, language 3, L1, L2, L3 will be the same formula with more flexibility in adopting the languages is given. So L1 is always mother tongue. So mother tongue will always be the child's language or the society's language will be the mother tongue. There is no doubt. This L1 for in the selection of L1, it is not the criteria that L1 should be a part of Schedule 8 of the Constitution. Yeah, I've talked of Schedule 8. There are 22 languages in Schedule 8 of the Constitution. And these 22 languages are taken from various parts of the country. On the basis of certain criteria, they have selected 22 languages. They are more popular than mother tongues, or the number of speakers sometimes, or a script, or many other things they have considered while selecting the 22 scheduled languages. Some more languages can be added later on, but as of now 22 languages are there. But these are just 22 languages, and the number of mother tongues in the country which are used in the schools, mother tongue used in the schools by teachers, is more than 155. So more than 155 mother tongue based instructions are given in various parts of the country. And I also said more than 1,500 mother tongues are spoken. Okay, so there is a message. Can I get the meaning of that message? Someone has said that I have a lecture from 3:30. So am I supposed to receive that person and I'm supposed to wind up early? Of course, I'll be able to wind up by 3:30, but there is a message. Can the organizer read the message? And Vivekanand Rao, he says that some lecture is there. So is it meant for me? Okay, he has to attend. Okay, maybe it's not for me.
No, sir, it's not for you.
The message also pops up, and maybe sometimes that accepts. Anyway, done. Okay, so I was saying that for a mother tongue, it is not compulsory that it should be a scheduled language. So mother tongue can be any other language. 150 languages or 155 languages that are used in the schools of the country, or 1,500 languages spoken across India and short number of families as well. So mother tongue can be any language that is spoken by the child. And the teacher should try to respect that language. If maybe the number of mother tongue speaker is less in the class, say in a class where you have 30 students, you have 25 students speaking Odia and 5 students speaking not speaking Odia Maithili. In that case, if you have 25 speakers of Odia, the teacher's medium of instruction should be Odia, but at the same time, the child should also take the pain of explaining those 5 students in Maithili language, maybe by using a bilingual approach. So mother tongue should be the medium of instruction, as I said, as specified. Then L2 is compulsorily a part of Schedule 8 language. So the second language the child will learn must be a Schedule 8 language, the language that is mentioned in Schedule 8, and the maybe a local language or regional language that with the state or a CRT will decide which will be the L2. Here flexibility is given to the state to select L2 and L3 both. And then L3, again, Schedule 8 language, which has not been an L1 and L2. So L2 will certainly not be L1, a different language than L1. L3 will certainly not be L1 and L2. So the state will be given flexibility of using choosing any other language from Schedule 8 as L2 and L3, and mother tongue compulsory as the medium of instruction in the early stages of learning. States have been given lots of flexibility. So states can decide, sometimes even district can decide as per the requirement of the area. As I said, where you have listeners of both the language or speakers of both the language, L1 and L2. So around 25 students of Odia and 5 students of Maithili. The teacher will use bilingualism, will explain that children in both the languages, while his medium of instruction will be Odia mostly. He will also use Maithili to explain to meet the 5 students need in the classroom. So the teacher, as far as possible, will use bilingualism to bridge the gap between different kind of learners and slowly move the child from, because if the child speaking 5 students speaking Maithili is going to stay in that school for a longer time, will take the child from Maithili language to Odia language till the child is comfortable in that language. So in 3 language formula, you have L1, L2, L3. I have already explained about that. There will not be any imposition. So the the center will not impose any language saying that you read only Hindi, you read only English, or you read only this language. The states will be given complete freedom to select the language. There will not be any imposition. The choice will be to states or region. Sometimes even to learners if they decide, they have to decide. One more thing over here is that 2 out of the 3 must be native languages. This is very, very important. That means you cannot take more than one international language when it comes to English, or maybe there are other languages also given, French, German, and all. The child says, okay, I learn mother tongue. First language will be mother tongue. L1 as my mother tongue, L2 English, L3 French. This will not be possible. Out of the 3 languages, 2 languages must be native languages. So the language that is a part of Schedule 8, out of the 3 languages, 2 must be native language. Even English, maybe one of the operational languages, maybe official language, it will not be possible for the child to take more than 1 language as international, as language of choice. So in 3 languages formula, 2 language must be native language mentioned in Schedule 8 of the Constitution. Then the child will have an option to change the language in grade 6 or 7. The child cannot change it early. When it comes to changing the language, say the child has taken, say, Hindi. The child is a Oriya speaker, so first language is Oriya, second is Hindi. Third, the child has taken Sanskrit as a third language. But in grade 6, the child wishes that, okay, I don't want to keep Sanskrit as my third language, rather I want to change it to English, or I want to change it to French. The child will be given a freedom to change language in grade 6 or 7 as the language of the choice that is available. Not, I don't say French, but mostly native language will be there. So the child will be given freedom to change the languages grade 6 or 7, 6 or 7. Maybe in the Oriya area, in Odisha, if the child wishes to take Tamil as one of the languages in grade 6 or 7, the child will be given freedom. This all will also depend on the kind of teacher who is available, the kind of teachers or the teacher's language or the language teacher that are available in that area, or the state also, what are the languages they are offering and what flexibility the child has to change the language. What are the advantages of 3 language formula? It will have maximum outreach. The child will learn more than more than 2 languages. The child will have easy comprehension and retention. It will support mother tongue and other Indian languages. So there is a support. There will be increase in patriotic feeling. I said cultural values are associated with this. So it will support our cultural values. And in the early stages, the mother tongues, or these 3 languages are mother tongues, are mostly the medium of instruction. So maybe in the early stages, having 3 language formula and giving importance to mother tongue will need to develop cultural value, patriotic feeling, and will help the child learn better. So the language policy also, because India being country where you have unity in diversity, this language will also be one of the links that will link the whole country into one thread. Languages will be the one to link the whole country, to bring unity in diversity, to link the whole country together. That's why this national language policy does not promote any one language. It focuses on all the languages that we speak as Indians. And the policy says Indian languages are amongst the richest, most beautiful, scientific, and expressive in the world. I said this sentence has a sense of linguistic chauvinism, promotes promoting our language, having faith in our language, feeling pride in our own language. So the policy says that Indian languages are one of the richest, most beautiful, and scientific and expressive languages of the world. So they should be, the languages should be promoted and preserved. They say that language of the policy says language of knowledge of language, culture, and tradition brings educational, social, and technological advancement to any country. So if you have knowledge of your language, knowledge of your country, certainly your country is going to advance more on the cultural front, educational front, social front, and technological front. So language is something that leads to the advancement of the country. Here, hence, all the languages of the country have been promoted. It says huge body of literature, music, and films are written in Indian languages. We all know that whatever language we are from, most of the languages we have a rich tradition of having lots of movies, literature, musics, and films. India doesn't have only one language where movies, music, etc. is there. We have original, collection of lots of huge body of, these kind of things, literature, music, films, and are there. So we should try to promote them more and more. Then it says national identity and wealth, cultural enrichment, and national integration will be based on language. So language is a national identity. You see that I generally appreciate. I'm not a lover of China or hater of China, but or Japan. That's it. But I really feel the way they preserve their language, they use their language. English has not become very, very popular in China because of this thing, that they are proud of their language. Or said that's it in Japan or in Russia, they are so proud of their language that they are not much into learning language like English. They feel pride in their own language, and as a result of that, they have the languages have national identity. China, Chinese language; Japan, Japanese language; Russia, Russian language. We don't have any other language which will work. You go and look for English speakers, you'll hardly find out of 10 people, 1 or 2 people will find who can speak English. But in India, every other person knows many languages. So national languages, there should be a national identity, and national identity is brought by the languages of the country. So this policy also not only provides one language, but say that national identity, language is also a maker of national, or creator of national identity. So we should be kind of creating our language, feeling proud in our language, and develop our own language. That's why the child should learn more than one language, and the child should take fun project in the languages of India under Ek Bharat, Shrestha Bharat in grade 7, 6 to 8. So in 6 to 8 grades, maybe you call it, when the child has grown up and can understand the other languages, the child can take a fun project, which will be a fun-based learning, maybe online or maybe some fun-based learning as a project to learn another language. So here, the child will not take language that the child knows or is familiar with. The child will try to learn a different language. So a child of say Malayalam will take a project not only in Sanskrit, who the child might be learning somewhere. The child can take a fun-based project in Maithili, in Odia, in Assamese, in any other tribal language or any other languages that are there. So the child will take a fun-based in Santhali, in Mundari, any other language which the child wishes to learn. Child will take a fun-based project in the languages of India under Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat, and this will let the child know the cultural diversity of the country and know the culture, tradition, the language of other part of the country as well. Then the policy also talks of classical languages. It talks of various languages that had been there, in our country since ages, and says that we have lots of classical languages, and these languages are promoted. I could find, I'm not talking of a particular language, but at many places I found that they also thought that Sanskrit and some other languages, that said, Tamil and Telugu and some other languages have deep roots in the classes, in the ancient times of India, and these languages have been operational for thousands of years. So they wanted to promote the classical language of the country, and for that, they, at least for about Sanskrit, they have mentioned in detail. They said Sanskrit knowledge system. They want to develop a Sanskrit knowledge system. The policy says that, and they say that they want Sanskrit to be very, very easy, and for that or many other languages as well, like Tamil also, that the same whatever is applicable to Sanskrit can be applicable to other languages as well. So they want simple standard Sanskrit, SSS. That means they want the language to be very, very simple. Whatever complexity the language has, Sanskrit language has, can be removed, and it can be made standard, simple standard Sanskrit can be developed, which can be a standard language, easy language in Sanskrit. And that's why it says that Sanskrit can be taught through Sanskrit. So they say Sanskrit through Sanskrit. There is a small contradiction here. They say that you cannot, it's not compulsory that you teach language in that language itself. So you can teach Sanskrit through Hindi or through English as well. But here they are focusing on Sanskrit through Sanskrit, STS. So they say that, okay, once simple standard, what they mean is that once simple standard Sanskrit is developed, then certainly it will be easy. Once simple system is developed, easy Sanskrit is used, the child will be able to use it, and the language Sanskrit can be taught through Sanskrit as well. So they also the policy also talks of Sanskrit through Sanskrit. Then we have other languages, classical languages as well, like classical languages like Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, and Odia, which are highly used by large number of people in the country. These are also classical languages. These languages have also been put into classical language category and should be preserved and promoted. Then some other languages whose speakers are less, or maybe which are most classical because there are only a few textbooks or books are available in them, like languages like Pali, Persian, Prakrit. These languages have been classical languages. Mostly manuscripts and all survive in those languages. They should also be preserved. There are many institutions which are working for documenting these languages. Some IITs have also been given this role. So there can be some language or classical language foundation as well, which I predict if these are to be implemented, an institution to preserve the classical languages can, or maybe Ministry or the Ministry of Culture or something like that can come up to preserve these languages and do documentation. So for teaching, preservation, and promotion of classical languages, more and more emphasis is given. So preservation will be mostly on the basis of documenting the language and spreading it. The documenting the language whose speakers are very, very less. There is a family in Bihar, just one family, a tribal family who is speaking, who are left to speak that language. I don't know the language, but they know the language. So there are some some languages which are on the verge of extinction. So these languages should be preserved. However less the number of speakers of these languages may be. That's why it says that in grade 6 to 12, the child can also take a 2-year course, mostly online course, in languages. The child can have freedom. I don't know right now as to at what level this will be taken up, but the child can take up a 2-year diploma or a certificate, mostly diploma program in languages, in classical language. The child can take a 2-year diploma course, mostly online, through online medium. Then the policy also advocates foreign languages, not only one language. Maybe English has become a second language of the country, so it says of other foreign languages. At secondary level, the child can pick up any of these foreign languages: Korean, Japanese, Thai, French, German, Portuguese, Spanish, Russian, to mention a few which is mentioned in the policy. Other languages which the particular area or particular policymaker decides. These languages can be taken at secondary level as one of the subjects. To teach these languages, in order to make the teaching effective, the policy says that experiential learning pedagogy should be used. So the teacher should be using experiential learning. The child should be given more and more first-hand experience of learning the language. The teacher or teaching process can also involve lots of applications and softwares where language can be gamified. You can see lots of applications are out there in the market, something like Duolingo or some other applications are there, which are now completely gamifying language learning. So these gamification of language learning should be there. The child should be allowed to share their real life experience and use the language in their real life, in debates and in discussions and in presentations and all. So real life experiences should be given to the child to use the language. Films, theaters, storytelling, poetry, music, which work on language, they are to be motivated and promoted more and more. Then the last part of the policy language, point number 4.22, advocates 4.21 and 22, advocates of standardizing Indian sign languages. So they say that like America has American Sign Language. We have a picture of American Sign Language here. Similarly, India can also develop Indian Sign Languages, ISL. This will help children with special needs, especially hearing impaired children, access learning better in a better way. So it works. It advocates promoting and establishing on Indian Sign Languages. Maybe a department can also come up with Indian Sign Languages. It should standardize the Indian Sign Languages, and the national and state curriculum materials can be developed using Indian Sign Languages, so that they can, mostly videos and all can be developed using Indian Sign Languages, so that they can also see them and understand them. But at the same time, it also says that local languages are also respected. That means if there are local sign languages in particular country, in particular part of the country, if there are local sign languages, they are also to be respected. They should not be neglected. So keeping respect of local sign languages, a national Indian sign language is to be developed, which can help children with special needs, particularly hearing impaired children. I think then there may be some challenges. Will need lots of recruitment of new teachers, language teachers. If it comes, country will need lots of language teachers. When mother tongue and other education comes, we'll have lots and lots of training required in teaching, mostly language teaching. Then flexibility in three language formula will also lead to some chaos. Maybe selection should be done, and somehow monitoring should be done at central level, so that things do not go out of hand. When it comes to foreign languages offerings, which I'll talk in next few slides, there are some challenges. Then third, fun course in languages of India. Maybe flexibility will be given to the child to select, say, child of South India can select some language of North India or Northeastern India, but who will teach? There should be a teacher to guide the children. So mass level of teachers will be required. So this taking a fun course in language of India will also require more and more teachers. Course on classical language and literature in India, the movement is good, but again, we need more and more teachers. So out of all, one of the most important challenges will be not from a student's point of view, but from teachers' point of view, where we need more and more experts in that languages. And then a study of Sanskrit language and literature, at least at some point I said they have been more given emphasis. Other languages also need that. So there may be some challenges, but then I think if we move forward and take them in the right direction, the challenges can be easily overcome. As Meghnathan sir was suggesting, less emphasis has been given to Hindi. So there has not been any And even I don't want to say that, but then do we need any linked language for our country? If we do need for lots and lots of years, this debate has been there whether Hindi or any other South Indian languages or any other language. So what will be the linked language? Do we need any national language? So there has not been, though all the languages have been promoted, at least for northern part of the country, they should have where the linked language is Hindi. At least if they had been made compulsory, or some not compulsory, at least been given some more focus, then maybe one language can have been a linked language for the northern part of the country. So as Meghnadhan sir was saying, uh, there has been not any talk about Hindi. So something that is not much talk about Hindi, something that is missing, and similar to English as well. English has become one of the teacher of English has been talking not against English, not talking anything about English. So English, which has become one of the linked language of the country, I said one of the linked languages. So English that has become one of the linked language of the country. There has not been any much talk about this as well, which can somehow unify the country and bring linked language into our country. So, and because at the senior stages, when you go to past class 9 and 10, most of the good textbooks are available in English. Uh, College level, almost 90% of the books are available. Good books and good teaching is available in English. So they're not talking much about English has also been something that has been felt by me as one of the concerns, but I do not blame policy for this. These two are my personal concerns, and I hope those who are listening can forgive me for bringing out these two concerns, but they are the concerns that the ones that I felt maybe somehow should have been given some more focus in the policy as well. Thank you very much. I'll stop here. You may contact me on the given email addresses if you have any further queries. But now I can take a few one or two questions if time permits.
Yeah, sure, sir. Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so if there are no questions, I'd like to be back.
Uh,
So back to you. Uh,
there is a question. I can see
okay.
a question in the chat box from
Yes. Yes. Please.
Gauthami Kansman Sami. He says,
Mhm.
why not all the public schools run by government following standards? Law, medical, and education must be government owned, and no one must have their hands on it.
Okay, I think this is saying too much. We are a democratic country, and the government is to take all these decisions in these fronts. This will be imposition of certain things on the country and less liberalization of education system, which will bring more protests in the country. So I'll not go into that, but then yeah, there should be something to monitor that they follow whatever is given in national education policy. Some the points that are stated in the policy are based on research, based on evidence, based on logic, and if they are followed, certainly that will bring more prosperity to our country. So maybe something they are suggestive, they are not prescriptive. That's why they say that this policy is not prescriptive in nature. We are not prescribing, or the government will not prescribe even language formula. They're not prescribing, or they're not making it compulsory. They are giving flexibility, saying that this is good, up to you, follow, not follow. But maybe some monitoring should be there. This also I feel. So that way the concern raised by Kandaswamy, Sami something is right, but then it's up to government. But I don't think this will be possible in the country that they take over everything and keep the control in the hands. We are a free country and we have lots of freedom in education as well, which will be respected. Let's see what happens. I cannot uh, go into government's point of view. I can interpret the policy as a teacher, as a learner, not give my inputs from government's point of view. Yeah, it's completely on the governments to take decisions in this front.
Any other question from the audience? I think no more questions from the audience side. So, uh, thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful session with you, and it was a pleasure listening to your uh, beautiful words and the way you explained the language perspective in the National Education Policy 2020. It was wonderful, and uh, and beautiful how beautifully you explained the three language formula L1, L2, L3. It was wonderful. Thank you so much, sir, and I hope that it will definitely be a good thing for all of us and all the would be teachers and the teachers who are serving. And thank you so much. And
I'd like to thank the Trust, Cape Comorian Trust, and my old friends Subra, Abhimanyu, if he's there, some other people. Even I have been introduced to Shishma Bala ma'am today. Some other people are there. I'd like to thank them for calling me here, getting familiar with the team, and maybe whenever you need, I'm always there. Thanks a lot, the trust and the now government college as well, who considered me as a person, one of the junior most speakers today, the younger speaker today. But I hope I didn't disappoint you all.
it was a
Thank you
wonderful
very
session,
much.
sir. Very nice. Thank you so much, sir. And now we are just very close to the ending of today's one-day conclave on the National Education Policy 2020. And to end with as we started with the very formal welcome address, we'll do the same with the formal vote of thanks. So for vote of thanks, I would like to call upon stage our respected ma'am, Dr. Sushma Bala ma'am, convener and assistant professor at Government College of Education. So may we have Dr. Sushma Bala ma'am on the screen, please, for the vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ravinder. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Par Brahma, Tasme Shri Guruve Namah. With these words, मेरा सब गुरुजनों को डॉक्टर सुषमा का कोटि कोटि प्रणाम. I am honored and lucky to have the opportunity to give a vote of thanks on this special occasion. I am especially thankful to our respected Prime Minister Shri Narendra Damodar Das Modi ji and our Education Minister Shri Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal ji and all the educationists and the persons who were there in the drafting of our national education policy. They have given us a very beautiful thing which will help our nation to become in real sense a Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to our Chief Patron, Janab Talat Parvez Rohela ji, Commissioner Secretary of Higher Education of JNK, UT of JNK, India, who always encouraging us regarding the innovative activities and all the higher education institutions to promote for the quality of education. Then, our patron, Dr. Kulvinder Kaur, Principal Government College of Education, Jammu. Thank you so much, ma'am, for encouraging, supporting and believing in us for organizing such an important event, which is really the need of the hour for all the stakeholders of the nation. Without your support, it won't be possible. Mr. Sanjeev Rana, Deputy Secretary, Higher Education Department of JNK. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your valuable time for the presidential address. All this is possible due to your kind support. This conclave would not have been possible without the support of Dr. R.S. Regin Selvest, President Cape Comorian Trust India. Thank you so much, sir. I express my heartfelt thanks to Honorable Chief Guest, Professor Dr. Ami Upadhyay also, who has really very beautifully told us about the importance of our cultural heritage and also three language formula. When she speaks in Gujarati, I love to listen to those words. Dr. Kashmira Mehta ma'am, it gives me immense pleasure to listen to you, especially in Kashmiri. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. Professor Dr. Ramanujan Meghanathan, you have given your valuable presentation before us, and with the presentation, we must try to develop in us the eternal Indian knowledge, which is the main thrust of the NEP 2020. Because without this knowledge, we can't preserve and transform our Indian culture. Professor Dr. Reni Nanda ma'am, you have really made my day because you have enlightened us with our the initiatives which are continuously in progress by the government of J&K, Jammu and Kashmir state, UT. Then Dr. G. Mahatu, who has very beautifully explained about the language policy. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable information regarding the language policy. Because एक वेबिनार में मैंने सुना था, हमारे एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर रमेश पोखरियाल जी ने कहा था कि जब शब्द दिल से निकलते हैं तो वो भावनाएं बन जाती हैं. सो द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ मदर टंग, हम इसको रिवील कर सकते हैं कि मदर टंग की क्या इम्पोर्टेंस होती है. And last but not the least, I would like to thank once again Higher Education Department, J&K, UT, India, Cape Comorin Trust, India, our worthy principal ma'am, all the speakers, participants, our organizing team, moderator, especially Dr. Shubhra Jamwal, and Ravinder Singh, who has recently got the title the youngest anchor, NSS volunteer of GCOE, and media persons also. You all, without your support, this couldn't be made a success for the day. So, in the last, with the words of this Mohtu sir, I would like to convey the vote of thanks. I think you can feel those feelings of mine, that I would like to convey the vote of thanks in my mother tongue, Dogri. तुंदा सारे दा बड़ा बड़ा धन्यवाद कि तुसें इस वेबिनार की, इस कॉन्क्लेव की, इस नेशनल पॉलिसी 2020 की एक बिग सक्सेस बनाया. और तुंदे सारे दे सहायता दे बिना ये चीज पॉसिबल नहीं हो सकती ही. आई फील प्राउड टू स्पीक इन डोगरी. इट मे बी दैट कुछ लोगों को ये समझ में ना आया हो, सॉरी फॉर दैट, बट मेरा दिल से मन था कि मैं डोगरी में बात करूं. इसका कोई बड़ा स्पेशल नहीं था. तुंदा बड़ा बड़ा धन्यवाद. मतलब यू ऑल आर, वी आर वेरी ग्रेटफुल एंड थैंकफुल टू ऑल द पीपल. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a wonderful and a beautiful vote of thanks. As ma'am said that Dogri language, she thanked you in the Dogri language also. So it is beautifully said by a poet that the language of the Dogra people is sweeter than honey, and the sweetness can be compared to the sweetness of sugar. So we the Dogra people thank you so much, all the resource persons who joined from various parts of India and from abroad also for such a conclave to share their views about National Education Policy 2020. So I think with this we are about to end our today's one-day national conclave on National Education Policy 2020, organized by Government College of Education in collaboration with Cape Comorin Trust. So once again, I thank you all. I thank all the resource person, all the participants, all listeners, then all the professors from Government College of Education. A special thanks to Shubhra ma'am, who gave me such an opportunity to learn from such wonderful personalities, and equal thanks to Shushma Bala ma'am, who helped me in conducting the proceedings of the function. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll meet in another function like this for one more time.
Thank you, Ravinder, and God bless you. Went off very well, and I must congratulate Government College of Education, and be proud to be faculty member of the same. And thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. And I would request Dr. Regin to please post the feedback link. Yes, thank you so much. it's a request to everybody, please fill in the feedback link very carefully, as your certificates will be generated on the basis of your feedback. So thank you so much.